Let's introduce our guests in the studio. Today is Thursday, and we know that the Chief Justice said, let's have conversations about justice and access to justice every Thursday. And we said, yes, Madam Chief Justice, we actually like that idea. So, Justice Thursdays. And joining us in the studio today to talk about the small claims courts and to understand what small claims courts are and how we can use small claim courts is the Honorable Justice Alfred Mabeya. He is the presiding judge in the Commercial and Tax Division of the High Court. And alongside him is the Honorable Susan Gitonga. She's a resident magistrate and adjudicator in charge of the Small Claims Court. My Lord, Your Honor, welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you, Rick.
We call that the hot seat where you're sitting. Normally, it's where you are, Honorable Justice. But because you're our friend and we've said all we're doing is just having a conversation about justice, it's not going to be hot. It's just going to be warm. Yours, on the other hand. I'm kidding. So, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
It's a conversation about small claims courts. And we know when you had a conversation with the Chief Justice, she said, one of the things that I want to do in my legacy and leave as a legacy for my tenure as Chief Justice to make sure that we have greater access to justice for people and establish more small claims courts. And we asked her, so what's that? She said, you will understand in due course. And I think today is due course for us to get to understand what small claims courts are. So let's start with you, the Honorable Judge. What are small claims courts?
Thank you, Eric. As the word, the name itself sounds, small claims court. This is a court that has been established to deal with the small claims which are from 1 shilling to 1 million. Mm-hmm. Those ones are claims which, with the expanding economy, are expected or thought to be small. And the purpose is to simplify conclusion of disputes, which hitherto took long periods.
Okay. But in what? Are we talking about everything? So as long as CT and I had a deal, I lent him 50 bob and he's not paying, I can take him to the small claims court.
Now,
actually, he lent me 40 bob, but because he's on air, he wants to make it 50.
And I think, if you would mind, Eric, I can ask the chief adjudicator in charge of the small claims court to actually now explain the actual claims that are usually dealt with in these courts.
You see? I'm not the one who's actually putting the heat on the seat. It's the judge himself.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Latif. So, as judges said, we normally deal with matters where the claims are below 1 million shillings. So, let me start with the claims that are filed in this court. So, we have a contract relating to the supply of goods or services. We have contracts for money held or received. We have compensation for personal injuries. We have liability in tort in respect to loss or damage of property or recovery of movable property, and also set-off and counterclaim. So like compensation for personal injuries, these are basically road accident claims. Maybe you're in an accident and you got injured, so you come to court for compensation. An example of liability in tort in respect to loss or damage to property is also, let me give a simple example of road accident claims also. Mm-hmm. When you get into an accident and your car is damaged and you need that person who caused the accident to repair your vehicle, or maybe used money to repair your vehicle, so you come to court. For contract for money held or received is what you're talking about here. If you lend someone money and they refuse with your money, you can still come to court. Yes, you can come to court and the court may make an order for the money to be returned to you.
Okay.
Yes.
It's good that you clarify this because for many people, when you hear small claims courts, we are thinking it's a small cases, including traffic. I mean, traffic is out just 10,000 shillings. Take them to the small claims court.
Yes.
Also rent. If there's issues about rent and landlord-tenant disputes, they also come there. Does it go that far wide?
Yes, as long as whatever you're asking for is below 1 million shillings. If it is below $1 million shillings, you can come to court. But of course, in regard to rent, we're not talking about business premises. Maybe that goes to the business tribunal. We have tribunals which are set up to deal with that. But maybe you are renting a place and you paid a deposit, and that deposit was not refunded to you. We know that some landlords can be very cunning, and so when you move out, they don't want to return your deposit to you. Okay, so you can bring that to court because it's like a civil debt. You want the court to return the money to you. Yes, yeah.
So where were all these claims and cases before the institution of this court? Where were they? Some hanging around somewhere in the system. What was going on with them before the institution
Before
of
the
this?
institution.
Yeah.
So before the institution, they used to be filed in the Chief Magistrate Commercial Court. And that is why we will find there were so many cases in the Chief Magistrate Commercial Court. So the Small Claims Court came in place so that we can decongest also, and we can deal expeditiously with these matters, especially because we realize there's so much money that had been locked up in cases which take really long to be in the Chief Magistrate Court. And this is because, of course, the Chief Magistrate Court deals with other matters, labor relations matters. They're matters which cannot be filed in the Small Claims Court. So the Chief Magistrate Court was dealing with everything. So the Small Claims Court just came in place so that we can decongest the Chief Magistrate Court, and also we can deal with the delays and the congestion that we have in court, and also so that the layman can understand that you can come to court in a very simplified manner, and you get judgment. Yes.
If I may add, Ndu,
Yes.
it is the statute that established this court was enacted in 2016. But the rollout of the commissioning of the court itself was done on the 27th of April this year. And once Chief Justice Koome took office, she immediately rolled out a program where she established a committee and which has been working on the issue of having to implement the rolling out of these codes. Now, when you ask about where these claims have been, it's a very good question. It has been in the justice system. The magistrates' court was the one which was inundated with so many cases. The government, in a bid to make Kenya a business-friendly destination, thought that the medium-sized businesses, these people who you've lent 100,000 to start a kiosk, 500,000 from the SACCO, 900,000. It takes 5 years to conclude. By that time, that small businessman has closed shop and gone home and gone.
And they'll never be able to pay you.
They will never be able to pay. They will never. That is the end of it. So the government decided, no. Let us have a situation where we can be able to speed up these cases, these claims and disputes, so that for the benefit of our small, our can I call a small businessman?
Yeah.
Yes.
Small businessman, small claimant, the one who has been injured, and instead of waiting for 5 years, you wait for 60 days, and the matter is settled.
So is it then in statute, the 60-day limit? Is there a limit by which time a case must be concluded?
She cannot explain that step by step, so
okay.
that our viewers can be able to understand.
Yes. So, Latif, of course, we have timelines in the Small Claims Court, and that is the whole idea behind the Small Claims Court. We want you to come in and out as fast as possible. So, according to the Act, we have 60 days timeline. That means from the date you file your claim to the date judgment is delivered, it has to be within the 60 days timeline, which is provided under the Small Claims Court Act 2016. So to do this, we have really simplified the procedure in the Small Claims Court, especially to guarantee access to justice to the common mwananchi and actually everyone. Because most, whatever was causing delays in the other courts were technicalities and complicated procedures that the common mwananchi was not understanding. So in this court, basically, to institute a claim, we have forms that have been provided under the Small Claims Act rules. And they're very simplified forms. They're actually in question and answer form. So what you do, you just simply go to the judiciary website where we have uploaded those forms, and you download them, and you fill your form. So maybe the first one, I can just go through the so that the public can understand. We have the form number 1, which is the statement of claim. So you download this form as the claimant, you fill it very briefly, and you file it in court. If it is a commercial commercial matters which are $1 million, because that is what we are dealing with, you will not pay any fees because there is a waiver for all commercial matters. But even if they are civil matters, you cannot pay more than 1,000 shillings. Okay, so mostly you will pay 100 or 200, and that is the only money you will pay until you get your judgment. So you file your statement of claim. We immediately give you a number, and we give you a mention date to come to court. And so you serve the other party, we call the respondent. So when the respondent, you serve the respondent with the statement of claim, they're supposed to file a response to the claim. Just like majibu, answers. To say that maybe I owe this money or I do not owe this money. So if they...
I have to ask.
Yes.
What you're saying is extremely exciting.
Yes.
You mean if I have a problem, I don't need a lawyer. I simply come to court.
Yes.
Yes, and that is the purpose.
That is the purpose.
Muga, as she said, the delays in the mainstream court ordinarily is caused by the complex procedures. Where when Wanjiku comes there, or even an enlightened person who is not learned, he's left in a maze. And all that they hear is finally a decision has been made. They don't know what was happening. Now, that one is the one which for a long time had kept these cases in the as backlog. But in this small claims court, it is a walk-in, walk-out. It is simplified. The language is the language which Muga you'll be able to communicate, not the one which the adjudicator will be able to communicate.
But I'll still call the adjudicator Your Honor.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Your Honor. She's Your Honor nilimpatia 1,000 ajalipa.
Correct. It is still a court of law.
All right.
It's still a court of law with a court of arms, with the authority of the government. So that even for any person can be able to bring the claim with the easiness that there is. I would call it, I don't want to call it, it's like an elder's court, where our people go to the elders and present their claims. But it's sort of that. Okay. It gives the confidence to the claimants so that they can be in a position to communicate and have their disputes determined.
Yes.
On the issue of costs, in the mainstream court, that claim for 1 million, you'll pay 70,150. So that trader or that businessman who has a claim for 890 or 900,000, he has first of all to look for 70,150 to be able to lodge. But now, in her court, 100. It is zero.
Yes.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's interesting because maybe I can now connect this to an earlier conversation we had today on health, right? And we're saying all this infrastructure has been built. Are we then able to feed in the matter, right? Previously, what we heard about some of the things that would dog the judiciary is that we don't have enough in terms of personnel capacity. As it is, we need to hire more. We don't have enough around the country. How does this affect that? Because essentially, you've moved cases, a lot of claims, to another court. Obviously, personnel are required. Is there enough, or has there been enough now to move them this way?
There are no personnel. No. When we talk about the situation of the judiciary, it's quite dire. Like now, when we started the small claims court, we started with three adjudicators. Three only. And the court started at Milimani. And later on, the Honorable the Chief Justice was gracious enough to add us 2. But when she added 2, we also now feel to have the room where they could be operating from. Now, this is the incapacity, infrastructural incapacity, as well as human resource challenges. What she has done is that she's now been very gracious enough to convince the JSC to... when JSC recruited, I think, 50 resident magistrates, 15, they added another 15 to be 65, so that she will be in a position to roll out 15 of them as adjudicators for these small claims courts. So you are right when you talk about the challenges, human resource, as well as infrastructure. Yes.
You know, one hears of challenges, and it's throughout our judicial system. And yet, there's something that I found remarkable when I was reading about you, Judge. You were the presiding judge in Meru.
Correct.
Now, something distinctive about that particular court is that 3 years running, they were voted, elected, nominated, mentioned as the best. Now, what I wanted to understand, and I'm glad you're here, was what were they looking for? And what did
They find.
they clearly found something? For them to award this, they found. But you've summarized it well. And this is something that I'm sure is conducted for all the courts we have in the country. Yes.
Thank you, Muga, for that question. In Meru, that is it's a community which is very, very litigious. They usually the saying is tukutane mbele, and kukutana mbele is you meet where
Courts.
in court. There are several things that when I went there which I had to do. First of all is to know the number of the backlog, the number of cases, and what has been dogging the system. And then with my colleagues, the judges there as well, the deputy registrars, we had to strategize. What do we do? Let's look at those cases which can be finished as soon as possible. Then with the help of the headquarters, we will have judges come from those stations which have very little number of cases. Where cases, a judge is having 8 cases, while someone is in Meru is having 20. While in Nairobi, in Milimani, you're having 25. So somewhere in the far-fetched areas where the cases are low, there are 500 in a station, where in this station you have 7,000. So you are able, when you are facilitated, you call the judge or 2 judges, they come for a whole week, they deal with those which are simple cases and they can be able to be determined. And when they did that for about 2 years, we were able to bring down the number of cases to a sizable number where the 3 of us who remained there were able to manage. And that is where we were now. But the challenges that came in or has come in now since last year is that we no longer have funding to have these judges move around. There is no funding. So the judge who is in Marsabit, he has only 3 criminal cases, which you will hear for a whole month, while somebody who is in Mombasa has about 3,000 cases. So with proper funding, you can be able to move that judge. The Chief Justice will be in a position to post that judge for 1 week in Mombasa to be in a position to do what? The unclogging. So that is...
When you talk about those challenges, infrastructural challenges, budgetary challenges.
Correct.
This is basically them being laid bare. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We continue the conversation about the small claims courts with the Honorable Justice Alfred Mabeya, presiding judge of the Commercial and Tax Division of the High Court, and the Honorable Susan Gitonga, resident magistrate and adjudicator in charge of the small claims courts. Your Honor, how many of these courts are there now? I know, so the first one was earlier this year in 2021. Some have been done. How many do we have so far? How many do we expect to have, let's say, in the next 1 year?
Thank you, Latif. Now, currently, we only have the small claims court based at Milimani. But this is going to change as from next month because the Chief Justice wants to decentralize the small claims court to be available on all the counties. So each and every county will have a small claims court. And that is by November. And also in the NMS, we were looking at also having small courts like in Kariobangi, in Mathare, around those areas. So we have small claims court, 1 in Milimani, and in Nairobi, at least 5 others to serve those other places in Nairobi. So by November, we will have Nairobi small claims court in other counties in the country. Yes.
You know, it makes sense to have such a court next to the community. So not saying that you're coming all the way from wherever, whichever estate in Nairobi to take a matatu and go to Milimani to access such a court. So for us to have them in the communities, what do we need to have? What do we need to see? Do we need to have communities deciding, okay, so we have our social hall here, maybe we can build a small room and then allow the judiciary to come and now bring the personnel?
Or simply annex it, because it also those social halls are used every single day.
Thank you.
Or churches.
Yes.
You see, this is when after the Honorable Chief Justice Mother Koome was appointed. I think she had a word with the NMS. And she looked at the claims in Nairobi and realized how it was difficult for people to move from, especially the informal sectors, coming all the way to Milimani to access the small claims court. And I think then she agreed with the NMS. NMS agreed that they are going to actually construct 5 courts in all the informal sectors in Nairobi. And the position which the Chief Justice has taken is that apart from the small claims court, which will be dealing with the cases which Susan has talked about, we will also have even the criminal courts. They will be sitting in conjunction with the small claims court, so that instead of having somebody moving from Mathare to Milimani or Kawangware to Milimani. And
Milimani is imposing. Milimani is a place, you just don't want to walk into that Milimani law courts. Hey.
Thank you. So they will be, their disputes and their disputes will be decided on in those in the communal areas. As once the courts these courts are rolled out, they are going to be rolled out at the moment, Eric, within the existing magistrates court throughout the country. I think we'll start with about 10, 15 as we move forward. Budget reallocation allowing, then they will be rolled out to
whose
the other
budget?
The budget, the allocation to the judiciary.
But then this one we must ask, Your Honor.
Yes, please.
When we spoke with the Chief Justice,
Yes.
she invoked the Harambee spirit and mentioned that one of the things that she would pursue is to try and get communities to participate in enabling this delightful enterprise to actually take place, as in the building, contribute or help towards building. Now, for that to happen, what it means is that it is clear the budgetary allocation that you have is inadequate. So the very thing, the very dream and the very aspiration that the Chief Justice has, in my mind, is still going to be a tall order.
Yes, it is. It may be a tall order. Amuga, one thing that you have to ask yourself, or the Kenyans out there have to ask themselves, is why is it that 57 years down the line after independence, some Kenyans have to travel about 100 kilometers, 50 kilometers and above to access justice. Access to justice is one of the fundamental rights in the Constitution, Article 48. The question that they should ask themselves, has this Constitution helped us? Are we realizing it? And where is the impediment? And probably I would say their representatives are the impediment. It is Parliament that allocates the national cake. If Muga, we are now talking of about 3 trillion budget. Why would it be that an institution, a whole arm of government, which has more than 5,000 personnel, has the facilities spread out throughout the country in all the 47 counties, is only allocated a meager 17 billion?
Compared to what?
A body like NMS is only in Nairobi, 27 billion. Parliament is only in Nairobi, 47 billion.
And the judiciary, 17.
17 billion. So when people make noise about backlog, when people make noise about slow pace of justice, they first have to go back to the basics.
Yes.
Have they enabled this institution to be able to deliver? That is why the Chief Justice, with a very good vision about social transformation through access to justice, it may be out of frustration to now go back to Harambee and tell Kenyans, please, because we want to offer you, we are able, ready and willing to assist you, to give you justice. Can we now, through Harambee, through getting together so that we can be in a position to reach you? So it's the Muga is a question which is a very fundamental question which people in this country have to think about and have to ask themselves whether really is justice or dispute resolution a very important aspect in our country. And we know it is. Because when you are talking about somebody having to travel 50 or 100 kilometers, even back somewhere in Igembe, and I have this dispute, I feel that I am hurt, and I have to go very far so that I can be able to get my right. The first question I'll ask myself, what is the cost implication?
Yep.
If it is so costly, I better sleep on those rights. So many of our people
Or
who have
take a
disputes-
panga.
and deal with it.
And just sort out the issue.
And sort it out.
Mano. Isn't that though then what would this situation then for me I see clearly as hampering what Honorable Gitonga is saying here, that if you're saying budget allocation on BAD is what will allow the rollout of this in November, next month.
Yes.
We are talking about clearly something that folks in Kenya have been able to, in Nairobi, have been able to take advantage of.
Okay.
And we're saying it doesn't mean that these cases or these issues don't exist in other parts of the country. They do. Right now, they are being denied justice because the operations are not available there. This budget allocation could stop this actually from happening.
Yes. True.
Isn't that something that's a bit anxiety causing when you think about it?
Yeah, it is quite frustrating, of course, because if you see the impact the small claims court right now in Milimani has had in our economy, it is quite a lot. Like the awards we've given right now total to 250 million. So basically that is what we've given back to the economy. And we are just 5 adjudicators and it is only in Nairobi. And we've resolved like 3,000 cases, almost 3,000 cases in a span of 6 months. So the idea that this dream might not come to conclusion because of the issue of funding is really frustrating. Like right now in Milimani, in the small claims court at Milimani, we thank God for the virtual courts, because if we were to do open courts, how will we be able to sit? Because we don't even have space. We're actually housed by the chief magistrate, commercial court, and we actually share chambers with the other magistrates. So thank God for our laptops, and I'm not saying thank God for COVID, but as at least thank God that we have virtual courts. So you can just take your laptop and just proceed with court. But it is very important that the government do prioritize the small claims court, the funding in the judiciary, so that we are able to dispense justice. You see, the whole idea behind the small claims court is to guarantee access to justice to the common mwananchi wherever you are. So we don't want you to be traveling all the way to Nairobi, and we want to have simplified procedures with very inexpensive methods. In the small claims court, when you come, we are not asking you to pay fees. So you can imagine if you have to travel, now you're also paying transport. So you say, I'm not going to come to court. So it is a matter of urgency. It is a matter of urgency, and I'm really hoping that the government will see this and just fund the judiciary so that we are able to decentralize the small claims court to other counties and guarantee access to justice.
And what it means is that
Yes.
that small businessman in Butere is still having to grapple with the complicated procedures of the mainstream court, while that businessman in Nairobi is now enjoying the fruits of the small claims court.
Right.
Yes.
And his claims are being settled within 60 days.
Yeah.
While the one in Nyakach or whatever out there,
Yes.
it has to wait for 4 or 5 years.
But Justice, we're asking that government fund the judiciary. But let's look at government. The executive, the legislature, the judiciary, right?
Yes.
That's government.
Yes.
Right? So where is the conversation then being had in terms of what an independent institution, where is the conversation then being had in terms of what needs to happen? It's not the first time this conversation has reared its ugly head. It has happened before. But now here we're looking at, in order for justice to be expended,
Yes.
certain things need to happen.
Correct.
Isn't it a now brotherly conversation that needs to happen amongst the arms to say, okay, guys, can we get this thing moving?
I agree with you. It's an issue of, although independent, there is interdependence. We are oversighted in our budgetary by Parliament. And I think that is where the biggest problem is. Every year, the judiciary sits down and it does work plans and it presents its budget to Parliament. And the first thing they will do is completely to slash it down to the bare minimum. The thing is that I don't know what they fear if in each and every constituency had a court. Probably, I don't know whether it is there is a fear that probably justice is reaching the people. But having in mind that under the constitution, the Kenyan people have given Parliament the power to be able to allocate resources. That is where the buck stops. The parliamentarians do not want their people to have this commodity called justice near them.
Biggest hindrance to access to justice.
That is it.
You know why what you're saying makes sense, Justice, is because there's a conversation we hear about here in this studio, and we've heard it very often, that the bottleneck to justice in this country is the judicial system. We've had that discussion here on many occasions, that we've heard proponents of it.
Yes.
But you see, the question, I at such times when I hear that discussion, I'm inclined more towards conspiracy theory. And whereas you may not be able to say it, or Honorable Madam Gitonga may not be able to say it, but for me it is clear-cut sabotage. Because if I look at the time when William Mutunga was the Chief Justice, and I look at what he was able to do, it was because that particular executive which was there supported those initiatives. And that is why we even have a semblance of what we can call a justice system now in the frame. But the gains seem to have been reduced significantly thereafter. And it looks like they keep getting reduced. And yet, in a country where the population keeps rising, you would expect when you plan and you budget with those things in mind. When you have a pandemic, again, you look at the causal effect of some of these things and you budget with those things in mind. Now, Parliament, I usually have very few kind things to say about Parliament. Not because I make them up, but there are very few things I can say which may sound kind. That they have completely failed in their duty is not a new subject of discussion. So let me ask the question.
Yes.
When it comes to now creative managing of situations,
Correct.
because this is a situation, you have a parliament that is going to sabotage you. There's no question about it. No, they will sabotage you. Okay? So now, given that is a constant, what then can the judiciary creatively do to ensure that the people who need this justice actually get it?
I have told you that, and I know when the Chief Justice was here, you graciously hosted her, and she told you that one of the things that she's going to do is to try and get these harambes and people in the communities themselves to give spaces or infrastructure so that what is left for her is only personnel. That is number one. That is the initiative, the personal initiative of the Chief Justice. Number two, the committee that has been sitting to look at the plan about the rollout has already handed over its report to the Chief Justice, and we know that she's bent on having to roll it out using the meager resources that are there, so that little that the Chief Magistrate's Court was using will now be shared with the Small Claims Court. It will be about 15 or so different courts outside Nairobi. That is from next month or something like that. Hoping that now when we go to the next financial year, next year in June, there would be probably some prop-up so that we can be able to roll out this good kid throughout the country. Then there is also the other thing is we are encouraging what? Mediation. You see, with mediation and that which is an alternative justice system, the number of disputes that are now coming to the mainstream dispute resolution courts reduces. And if it reduces, the little that there remains in the judiciary now, we can be in a position to deal with it.
Paint for us a picture, Honorable Judge. If the judiciary was well funded, how would it look like? How would my mother feel?
Let me tell you, Mama Mboga, the man in the street, the man down at Nyalugunga, the man down at Garissa or elsewhere, will have his justice instantly. In the developed countries or systems, we have not only infrastructure, but enough personnel to deal with the disputes. What those countries do is that they measure the number of disputes vis-a-vis the human resources, the number of judges vis-a-vis the number of cases which are being filed. It's not that we don't know in Kenya. As Muga has said, when Chief Justice Mutunga came, and we thank him for what he did, there was a deliberate attempt to actually know the number of cases in our judicial system. I think they were in millions and everything like that. But when finally the data came out and we knew it was slightly over 500,000, something like that, which now has been brought down probably to slightly below 500,000, that is the time probably the planners should have said, oh, no. Now we know why cases take 10 years, cases take... Yeah. People die while their cases are still in court.
Indeed.
In Canada, we have more than 2,000 judges. Yet the population is very low, and the case load is very low. When a judge arises on Monday, when he goes home on Friday, he's told next week you are going to deal with this one case. So he takes the file home. At his leisure time, he looks at it. On Monday morning, he comes, he tells the lawyers how many people we are starting tomorrow. By Thursday, the case ends. The following week, he delivers his judgment, period. Mabeya here will have 20 cases in one day.
Sorry.
Right now, if I look at my course list, once I leave here, when I go to court, it will be about 20. And I'll be sitting there until 4 p.m. trying to sort it out. So where the systems work, instant justice is there. Phenomenal. But where the systems are left to clog, that is why you'll hear people complain about the dragging of cases.
Yeah.
The judiciary is run by human beings, Eric. These are human beings, they get tired.
Really?
They get tired. If you are given so much to do in a day, of course you'll be worn out.
Right.
So, but they work, believe you me, they work throughout the day, and not a single judge or magistrate who fails to take files home during his spare time to look at cases and write judgments for Kenyans.
And yet
They don't work for only 8 hours. All they sit in court
they sit for 8 hours in
for
court.
8 hours.
Yes.
Then now the time to write judgment, you have to look for that time.
Tajipanga.
Not during the official time, but during what?
Your own time.
Yes.
You know, I'm just thinking about then the ripple effect of the kind of situation we are in. As you're talking about making Kenya, growing economy, making it an easier business, conducive environment.
Yes.
When you have so many cases you're dealing with, you are in charge of the commercial and tax division.
Correct.
This is the business. When you have business disputes, they come to your court.
True.
It means that when you're dealing with 20 cases and you're taking so long to listen to them and then so long to deliver your judgment, there's a delay in business that is impacting on our economy.
Yes.
I agree with you, Eric. In that division, I have now more than 5,300 cases, and we are only about six judges.
Wait. 5,000?
360 cases. That is by September.
Ongoing.
Ongoing in the system.
And you are 6
We are only 6 judges. The value of those cases is beyond 6, 7, 800 billion. That is money which is tied in disputes. And for us, if that money is released into the economy, you can imagine the impact it will have. Right now, if I talk about the tax cases, for the last 1 year, we've been able to sort out tax cases which have released money either to the government or to the business community of about 100 billion. We have cases which are about 110 billion now, tax claims within the system. But you can do only so much.
Sure.
You can only do so much.
So you're telling me that every judge has 933 cases to deal with?
And on daily basis, Muga, the
There are
number of
20 more.
cases that are added,
Yeah, because it's not like you're saying I have 933.
And-
Don't bring any more. They're still,
still
coming
get added,
every day,
yes.
right?
In a month, we register between 100 and 300 cases in that division in a month. And on a daily basis, all the judges in that division, we must do what we call certificates of urgency. And you will never do less than 3.
That is it.
And that one, you do them when you, because it's system, is the system. It is when you are seated, probably you've had your dinner. That is when now you're so, oh, these are the cases that have been filed today, and they are very urgent, deal with them. So during my spare time, I have to sit and serve the Kenyan at night and make orders, send it so that I tell them come after 2 or 3 days so that we can deal with your issues. So that is the system that we are talking about.
Yeah.
So when we have this small claims court coming, is a new breather. The technical procedures are not there. It is a very amiable. It is very homely, and Kenyans or whoever will appear before that court will tell you that this is what we have been missing.
Definitely, just going by the numbers that Honorable Gitonga has told us that
Yes.
you've been able to deal with in the last 6 months alone,
Yes.
it shows you that there are so many people who need
There's
this
so many
service.
people. Like per day, in the small claims court, we have like 50 matters filed. 50 matters, and we are only 5 adjudicators. Okay, so basically we have 4 sitting. And in the chief magistrate court, it is more crazier.
worse.
It is more crazier. Judge has mentioned that you will have 20 matters to deal with. In the small claims court, we'll have 30 to 40, and also in the chief magistrate court, 50. So basically, it is you're trying your best to work hard with the limited personnel we have. But if we are added more, then it's going to have a ripple effect even to our economy. Yes, even to our
Indeed.
economy.
Indeed.
And that is the basic principle of the small claims court. We want to we want to make our economy
Grow.
grow. Yeah, we want to make our economy
Keep
grow.
the wheels turning.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
also increase investor confidence in our country. Yes.
So when you hear, Eric, about people complain about cases are taking so long or the wheels of justice are very slow, there is so much to it that causes this. It is not that the people in the judiciary are sitting, are sleeping, the
Not
allowance.
showing up.
Yes. No.
There's a lot of work.
And
There's a
I
lot of
hope,
work.
I hope with this, at least Kenyans will be able to understand and appreciate.
Indeed, and we
what is
thank you
happening.
very much, Your Honor, and my Lord, for coming and sharing this with us. At least now we know there's a small claims court.
Correct.
We know where to go. We also know the work that you're doing and the work that needs to be done, and the support that then is also required from all of us as taxpayers and law-abiding citizens. It's 3 minutes to 9 o'clock. We thank you very much for tuning into the Situation Room today, especially those who've been with us on KTN Home. The conversations continue on SpiceFM, and we are around the country: Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi. Or you can live stream on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. Thank you very much, Judge and Magistrate, for coming.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you so much.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.